Well, hello, good afternoon, Miss and audience. The book I will be reviewing today is called No Country for Old Men, and it was written by Cormac McCarthy. Cormac McCarthy was born on July 20th, 1933, and he died sadly on June 13th, just last year, at the very, very young age of 89 years old. He was born on Rhode Island in the US, making him American, and the date of publication, the date which this book was released to the public, was on July 19th, 2005. So, moving on, what is this book actually about? Well, the book starts off in West Texas with a drug deal gone wrong, with many, many bodies scattered along the desert floor, with a couple cars in the area. And the protagonist, Llewellyn Moss, comes across this scene while hunting for deer. And when he comes across this sight of so many dead people, he starts looking around in the cars and exploring everything that he saw, and he comes across this almost dead man that asks him for some water, but he doesn't really care and keeps exploring. At the one point where he finds a briefcase full of money, which is the start of all his problems, because then he goes back to his house with the money, gives it to his wife, but then he can't sleep. He starts regretting leaving this man that was dying from thirst behind. So in the middle of the night, he feels so much regret that he fills up a container with water and drives out all the way back into the desert to find this man that was thirsty in the truck. And once he gets there, it's already pitch black, very, very dark outside. So he gets the water to the man, but the man is already dead. He passed during the day from the heat, and as Llewellyn had left his car at the moment, he looks back to see that there are others surrounding his truck, which means he can't go back. So he starts hiding, but the people already know he's there. And the truck, another truck apart from his, starts chasing him around the desert to the point where they're shooting at him, and he's almost caught. But he escapes and jumps into a river where the only person that follows him isn't actually a person at all. It's a dog, a hunting dog, that starts swimming after him. And at one point he shoots the dog because there was no other option and he was going to get bitten and eventually die. Later on in the story, word of this encounter gets to the sheriff, or previous sheriff, Ed Tom Bell, which is a pretty old man that still works as a police officer within this small town. And he, alongside some other cops, start investigating this case, where they get to the crime scene and see the dead dogs, the dead bodies, the remains of everything, and they start this wild goose chase that basically transforms into the rest of the story. Word of what happened and Llewellyn taking the money also gets to the boss of this entire cartel, which hires a killer to go after Llewellyn. And the killer's name is Anton Chigurh. Anton is a deranged psychopath. He kills people for the pleasure of it. And this is the person that they hire to basically go after and kill Llewellyn, no matter the cost. So, to escape from the killer, Llewellyn crosses the US border into Mexico, where he goes from hotel to hotel to hotel, escaping from Segur, where at one point at the third or fourth hotel, he's in his room when he starts checking the money to try to find out how the killer has been finding him time after time. And while going through the money, he finds a tracking device hidden in the briefcase. But right as he finds this, Segur is right outside his room. So everything goes quiet, and they basically fight during the night, shooting at each other, waking everybody up. And Llewellyn ends up with a gunshot wound in his shoulder, but he manages to get away. But he also manages to leave Anton wounded as well. After this encounter, Llewellyn crosses the border back into the US and spends the night inside a hospital to regain his strength and to get better after getting shot, while Anton just rests in a nearby hotel and mends his wounds himself. The next morning, Llewellyn wakes up to another hitman waiting next to his bed. And this man tells him that if he gives him the money, the briefcase full of the stacks and stacks and stacks of dollar bills, that he will take care of the psychopath for him, and there will be no more problems, and his family will be safe, he will be safe, and nothing else will come of this situation. But Llewellyn asks for some more time to think about his situation and doesn't say yes right away. And he promises to call him back later, but this never happens. Later on in the story, Anton finds this other hitman, eventually killing him right as he got a call from Llewellyn. And they talk for a while, and basically he gets threatened to hand over the money or else his wife will be getting killed and himself. So, under this threat, Llewellyn starts thinking about what he's gonna do, and the very next day at his hotel, a group of Mexicans showed up to his hotel room and shot him dead, later to be found by the police that were sent by his wife to basically protect him. When Segur eventually finds Llewellyn's deceased body at the hotel, he finds that there's no longer any need to pursue him. He finds the money in his room and proceeds to go fulfill his word by killing his wife. When he finds Carla Jean, which is the name of Llewellyn's wife, at his mother's house, he asks her to decide the fate of her life by calling a coin toss. If it's heads and she calls heads, she gets to live. The same with tails. But she refuses to participate in this twisted game, and she ends up getting assassinated anyways. And as Llewellyn leaves the house after killing Carla Jean, he gets into his car, starts driving away, and at a green light, his car is crossing the road, and he gets hit into from the side by another car, getting into a near-death, almost fatal car crash, which he somehow manages to survive. And as there are flames all around him from the crash, he somehow manages to force his car door open, climb to the sidewalk, take a seat, and starts breathing to start walking again. And right when this happens, two other kids that saw the scene come up to him and start talking to him, asking if he's alright and if he needs anything, any help, and to wait right there for the ambulance. But Segur doesn't care about any of that, and he acts as if nothing had happened at all, and simply asks one of the kids for his shirt to tie into a knot to use as a sling. and he later bribes them to not tell the police that he was ever there, and just walks away into the distance. And the final scene in the book was the sheriff talking with his wife about a strange dream that he had involving his deceased father and how he saw him in the distance in the dark. And I didn't really understand that part, but that was supposed to be the end of the story. Finally, to conclude this video, the things that I really liked about this book were, first of all, the story and overall plot, because I found the story very, very interesting from beginning to end. The entire book was very interesting, and I never lost concentration, or I never felt less interested in reading. And the second thing I really liked about the book was the overall ambience and the space where the story was situated in, this western feel that the author gave the book. The cops chasing the killer through the desert, the cactus, the overall stretched roads and the hotels, everything. And some of the things I didn't really like about the book were, first of all, that many people died. Almost every single character that was introduced throughout the story was eventually killed. And I didn't really like that too much about the book, as they killed basically everyone except for the sheriff. And I don't know, that didn't really make for a good ending, which is the second thing I didn't really like about the book. The ending was very boring. It let me down a lot, because the entire book, the story was building up to what I thought was going to be a very good ending, but it ended up being very disappointing. And the overall rating I would give this book is a solid 4.5 stars out of 5, because I enjoyed it very much until the very end. That wasn't very good at all. And I would recommend this book to a public of around 13 years old or older. 13 years old would be like an approximate of the minimum age to read this book, as it has plenty of details about every death, and a lot of death is in this book. So that's basically my personal review of No Country for Old No Country for Old Men. And thank you for your attention, and thank you for watching.